Welcome back, everyone. It has been a minute since I last made a video, and I hope that you are having a fantastic start to your new year. Now, today's video is going to be one that focuses specifically if you are hosting a meeting and the type of questions that you might need to ask to get that meeting moving along. I'm sure we've all been in situations where everyone is talking, everyone sounds busy, and yet no one knows exactly what we actually are deciding in this meeting. And you end up walking away from the meeting feeling extremely frustrated. So today I'm going to give you a set of questions that you can use to drive decisions and alignment. They are simple. They work in tech meetings, they work in leadership meetings, and they stop the meeting from turning into a discussion where no one knows exactly what is happening. Hi there, this is Jessica while editing the video. And I just do want to add a preface into this, saying that with these questions, a lot of the questions you should answer before the start of a meeting. You as the host, you are responsible for being able to answer a lot of these questions. But I will let you know along the way which questions should be answered before the meeting and which questions you can ask during a meeting. At the end of this video, you should have questions for 5 moments: alignment, decision clarity, assumptions, options, and your next steps. What are we waiting for? Let's start. Before any meeting actually begins, it starts with alignment. Before any solutions can be found, everyone needs to be on the same page. Everyone needs to have a shared understanding. If you are hosting a meeting, you should be able to answer the following questions before you even step foot into the meeting. However, there are some situations where maybe something's happened and you are hosting, but you don't exactly know what the meeting is about. In that situation, you could ask the following questions. What are we trying to achieve today? This is our main goal of the meeting. What would a good outcome look like at the end of this meeting? What is in the scope and what is out the scope? Having an answer to these questions reduces confusion and prevents the meeting from disintegrating or going into topics that are not relevant for the issue at hand. When I spoke to my team leads about these questions, they did say that oftentimes they will answer these questions before they even start the meeting, so that they can have control of the situation. One student specifically did say that he never writes down things that are out of scope. Because if something comes up in a meeting, generally there's a reason why it came up and it could be of importance. So you never want to shut things down completely. But there could be situations where the meeting deteriorates completely and you need to instead put the focus back on what is important. Do you need to do this for every meeting that you are hosting? No. This is also a situation where you need to play it by ear and you need to see what type of meeting that you are going into. Let's move on to the decision clarity questions. Let's be honest, a lot of meetings fail because no one wants to say the word decision or even make the decision. However, it is your responsibility as host of the meetings a lot of the time to make the decision. But here are some questions you can ask yourself and potentially ask your team during the meeting. Remember, if you are going to ask these questions, they need to be done at the beginning of the meeting, early on in the meeting. What decision do we need to make today? Do we need a decision today Or are we just collecting input? Who is the decision maker? What is the deadline for deciding? As you can see by these 4 questions, you as the host or the team lead, you should have the answer, or at least an idea of the answer, before you even step foot into that meeting. Assumptions. I was always told to assume makes an ass out of you and me. Teams often disagree because they have different assumptions about the topic. It's not to say that one team member is right and one team member is wrong. They might just be working with different information. And it is your responsibility as the host to make sure that everyone is able to come together and work from the same page. I want you to ask, what are we assuming is true right now? In this question, assume is very similar to believe. So what do we believe is true right now? Because let's be honest, things can change tomorrow, in 1 hour. What constraints are fixed? The time, the budget, the tooling, the compliance. We need to know what we can change and what we cannot change. Which leads on to the following question. What can we change and what can we not change? You can simplify this and say, what can't we change? But specifying the not places a little bit of emphasis on it. So you're going to be like, what can we change and what can we not change? Emphasize that not. Doing this can help the conversation sound a little bit more realistic, and it could potentially help you identify any blockers that could become last-minute emergencies. When we talk about options, oftentimes people present one option as being the only option. And with that, you might have a little bit of a disagreement in your team where one person suggests one thing and the other person suggests another thing. And they both believe that they are correct. So, in a situation like this, you can look at the following questions. What are the options on the table? Meaning you want to get all the different options and hear everyone's point of view. Along with this, you can follow up with what do we gain and what do we give up with each option. This will show you how much research your team members have done in understanding the option that they are presenting. If we are talking about risk, you could follow up with what is the risk if we choose option A? And sometimes, just to throw in a little bit of food for thought, you could ask, what is the risk if we do nothing? Because sometimes maybe doing nothing is actually the best option. We need to lock in the next steps. Meaning, everyone needs to walk away from the meeting understanding what is their responsibility, what is their role, what is the decision, when is the deadline. You need to give them all of that information. Because even good meetings lose value when everyone walks away without any clear instructions. Again, these are questions that you should be able to answer as the host of the meeting. So you could say these questions as statements, so you are giving the answer. You don't need to ask your team the question. Or you could ask these questions just to clarify with your team and to make sure that they have understood correctly. What have we decided? Who owns the next step? How will we know that it is done? Is anyone hearing this any differently? If you have already answered these questions for yourself as the host and as the team lead, then out loud at the end of the meeting, you are going to say the following: the decision, the owner, the next step, and the check-in date. You want to say each of these 4 points very clearly so that your team knows what is happening. Remember that you don't have to be the smartest person to host a meeting, but you do need to ask the questions that bring everyone in alignment and then gets them to move to make a decision. Let's take all these questions and try and make it a little bit more concrete. Imagine you are hosting a release meeting and people are debating over a hotfix. The questions that need to be answered are the following. What decision do we need today? Who is the decision maker? What is the deadline? What are the constraints? What are the options? What is the risk if we ship now? What is the risk if we wait? Now, the beginning questions are the ones that you should already have an answer to. The following questions after that are the questions that you are going to ask your team in order to make a better informed decision. Sometimes as the host of a meeting, you don't need to have all the answers to all the questions. However, you do need to ask the questions that provide clarity for everyone. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to run a Q&A without losing control of the meeting. Because questions are great, but unmanaged questions can destroy your agenda completely. If you want a simple cheat sheet of the questions from today, please check the description and tell me in the comments which of these questions have you used previously, which do you think you will use in the future, and are there any questions that you're not 100% certain of? If you're not 100% certain, please ask questions. I really don't mind spending some time answering your questions.